When I experience an obstacle or challenge, I'm going to move past it. I'm going to shatter that glass ceiling and I'm going to keep going.
It hurts to smash a glass ceiling.
Wow, we literally have to be superheroes to walk through this life.
While I might have been the first, I pray that I'm not the last.
Hey, Joshua.
Hey, Janine, how are you?
Great. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Absolutely.
I hope our listeners are too.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. We are just terribly excited to have you guys here. Thanks for tuning in from all across the globe and in at least 50 countries. We're about 50 now, but we're assuming that there's many more of you from different countries on. So welcome to Taking Her Lead. And here's what I always say, because this is important. This is our mission. Here we strive to give women a platform to tell their stories and explain how they lead. These conversations give us unique insights into the impact women in leadership can make in transforming the way we work and live.
Today marks the launch of our very first live stream of our podcast, Taking Her Lead. So thank you for joining us. We already heard that people in Lebanon are there and Jordan. So we know that people are getting up in the middle of the night to see us and listen to us. Cathy Allen is just that incredible. Today is International Women's Day. So we're even more excited to be launching our first live stream on International Women's Day. So thank you for joining us. And thank you for all the support we've had. Today is also the birthday of Cathy Allen. So she gets to join us on her birthday and have all of her colleagues and friends join us. That is incredible for her birthday party.
Yeah. So just a little bit of background on how we landed Cathy, just so you guys have some context. Way back in episode 8, we had Amelia Clark from here in Spokane, lead administrator for the Spokane Regional Health District. And I was just checking in with Amelia recently, and she said, I have got a potential guest for you you're going to be thrilled about. And she talked to me about Cathy Allen and Cathy's background and how she knew her. Mm-hmm. And I picked up the phone and called Cathy and talked to her about our mission and vision. And she was super excited about it.
Yay.
And yeah,
we are
so
too.
I was like, oh my goodness. So Cathy has 35 years experience working around the world, promoting women into political positions, helping them with their campaigns and coaching them in crisis communication when things come up. And she now leads the Connections Group, her company out of Seattle, with her incredible team, and working to level the playing field and bring in, of course, women, but also others who have been underrepresented in the political arena. So without further ado, please welcome Cathy Allen to Taking Her Lead. There we go.
Hey,
Cathy!
Hi there,
hey, welcome. Happy birthday.
Thank you. It was great to get up to all of these wonderful people all over the world, telling me that what a great time it is to have a birthday. And I'm like, well, I sort of decided that March 8th is a good day anyways. My mother used to think, may she rest in peace, she used to think that, well, obviously they'd name that, March the 8th after her. So International Women's Day is a good thing. And I'll never forget it this way.
Yeah, well, we are happy that you're here and celebrating with us. So we're happy that you kind of sparked that International Women's Day then. Your mama was right.
Yeah.
We're going to kick this off with having you tell our listeners, what is your current position? What are you doing? What's going on in your life? How do you identify yourself in terms of work and life?
I am a journalist at heart. That was my first job. When I was 5 years old, I think I did a family kind of, scooped everybody with just what was really happening in the household. Not making a lot of friends in the family at the time. But the fact is it was definitely a great time just to understand and appreciate what writing is all about. And it was actually, through my life, it has been the mainstream. Until I found out on my passport, if I put journalist, that was not such a good idea. Many countries would say, what are you doing here?
Careful. Right.
I know. But
So-
anyways, I have to say, I want to shout out to you folks, and Nick particularly, you guys who put this on. One of the major premises of what I do and how I do it is, women are starting to ignite in terms of the kind of leadership they've been wanting forever. But the problem has always been, it's not been international. People in Rwanda do it this way. People in Europe will do it another way. All of these things happen, but none of us connect. That's why I was so excited. When Joshua called, it was like, oh, thank goodness. Because when a woman wins in one country, a woman in another country tries.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
I agree with you.
That's the hope.
Well said. We're going to use that in our mission statement, our taglines right now. That was brilliant.
Yes,
brilliant.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, it
So-
comes from, of course, It's a Wonderful Life. Every time the bell rings, a
Angel gets his wings.
Angel gets its wings, right?
Yeah.
That's where it started from. So I can't claim all of it.
Yep. That's great.
Love it. So do talk a little bit about your work with Connections Group and things that you're working on outside of that and your passions, and University of Washington too. So
I love it. Right now I have 3 hats as opposed to the 12 pre-pandemic. Right now I'm still working, training women all over the world. Actually, now I do it virtually. There's no week in Brazil. There's no week over in Cameroon.
sadly.
I'm in Cameroon this week in terms of just training women there. And I am a happy prof over at the University of Washington. Love it. I co-train with someone there who is a Republican. I'm a Democratic consultant. And so we have great conversations.
Yay.
The students love it. We call it out, why can't we all just get along? And so from that, we spend a fair amount of time with give and take, but he's a buddy. Even if he's a Republican, he's a good buddy. And I have to say the other part is I have really been cultivating damage control, crisis control. It started when I was not only covering, when I was a reporter, I actually worked from Alaska for the New York Times in terms of just doing work there. But I have to say that I spent a good time of my life just actually seeing how different the world is when you have women at the table. And as part of that, it seemed to me that also in terms of negative attacks, women were not at all immune from being attacked or leading attacks or whatever. And I think that taught me the basics of, if you're going to get in trouble, why do you make it any worse? Why? So the damage control part started from that. And Wikipedia at the time had actually said, they quoted me as first defining what a negative hit piece was all about.
Wow.
Not something I was, tremendously proud about, but it was at least the beginning of my telling people, look, don't overreact. Don't do these crazy, silly things. Just think. And so what we did is we put together an entire kind of cheat sheet that for professional women, especially, because they're always even more of the target and they get targeted more personally. Right now, one of the most, I would say, disappointing, horrific things that have to do with all the great advancements of women is the increase in violence against women in politics specifically, and in our own country, and goodness knows, all throughout the Middle East and Africa. So it's been interesting to sort of align these 3 areas of my life, because it still starts with writing. It still goes to getting the whole story, not lying, and going to the point of coaching and encouraging people just to learn the tools that would make their life actually more powerful for them.
Right. Well, I'm going to shift a little bit, because I think there's probably more to you that our listeners would want to know. And it's a question that I ask everybody about your early childhood experiences and what you think how did your upbringing influence your career path? Because there's a lot of mamas out there right now who are, mothering daughters who are going to be our next generations. We want to hear, what does your early childhood experiences bring to you?
It was very happy. And actually I have a slide if you want to put it up. The fact is that it was happy. I was middle class, lower middle class, rural Massachusetts. My dad was an engineer. My mom took care of us until she went back to become a nurse's aide. after we had all left to go to college. And so in all of this, it was happy. I was the oldest of 5.
Wow.
Oldest.
Which meant, yes, I had the oldest thing going on for me. And I also was sort of the outlier in the whole crowd. I would be the one when my mother said, "You're going to where?" I said, "Well, I'm going to go live in Alaska for a while." What? And then what I had to say, on her dying bed, one of the things she had said to me is, "Please don't go to a war zone. Not again. Don't do it."
Aw.
And it sticks with me. It really does. She
Yeah.
always wanted me to be a teacher. I decided, no, I want to be a journalist. Thank you. I love journalism. Won a couple of awards early on, and so she figured that the die was cast, and I would stay.
Maybe you're good at that. Yeah.
I could probably stay there.
hmm
In
It
fact,
sounds like you've been challenging and fun all along the way, right?
I have. My middle name used to be Challenge. Go ahead, put it there. Put it there. Let me see what I can do with it.
I'll rise. Yes. Good for you. Good for you.
I would also have to say that I am the net sum of the brilliance of the incredible friends and colleagues I've worked with. You can't imagine how many women and men I have dragged across continents just to be able to encourage and help train women, many of whom are watching today. The fact is, I just loved it. And I have soulmates. My good friend Sue Hamill is in Canada. We can't even see each other because we can't cross the border. And my good buddies that are in the Middle East, who are still to this day, well, one is raising a beautiful daughter as her absolute, I would say, high point of the women's movement. The fact is that we have incredible people. And the part of me has always been, if I get a couple of extra bucks here and there, let's go to a country that can't afford to put on a training. Let's go to places where we can see what happens. And I would say it does stem from a childhood of being happy, healthy, in fresh air, with fresh people that were always willing to buck the system. And so when I went to college, it was right smack in the middle of the Chicago fights and riots, and we were closing down colleges all over America. Then we'd go to work for poverty nonprofits. At one point in time in my life, I was at the University of Bridgeport in Connecticut, and we spent literally the whole summer helping in sort of poverty areas in terms of cleaning up the street, teaching the kids, reading to them. That was when I say I probably became more overtly out there as somebody who was going to be a militant all her life. I knew Abby Hoffman. I knew all those guys. And so the fact is that it became kind of what you do. That was the time when you lived in rural New England. You didn't grow up trying to be sticking out, trying to shake, the actual barrel and get things moving. No. You didn't do that. But at college, there's just no getting away with the passion that comes to bear with other people when you actually see a system that changes and moves because of you.
Well, I think also your training in journalism probably helped you hone your voice and helped you cultivate a strong, authentic voice that people can hear and listen to, right? So that training has probably been invaluable to you over the years.
Well, it's funny you should mention it, because people think, well, you're born with a voice. That's the one you got. You got to do the best you can with it. Not true. Your voice is a muscle. It's not actually an organ. And so what happens is that, you can change your voice just in the 1 hour you're likely to be here. Where do you see the video at the end, which has all the different women's voices?
It's fabulous.
How they sound. Because your voice can, this very moment, tell people whether they're going to like you or not.
Right. It's also just cultivating a point of view and being very articulate about what your thoughts, wants, feelings, just being able to engage authentically is really how people listen. They want to listen to you when you're able to do that. So
and to be persuasive and move past the biases and the challenges. Cathy, can you touched on this a little bit, but would you say that there were primary pivotal moments for whatever the situation was, whatever the environment was, that really helped you set your direction, like the next direction or the next thing that you've done? Because you've had a variety of passions over your career and different foci. So what would you say?
Well, probably two things that have really been those pivotal moments. There was the moment when I first moved outside of the East Coast, when I actually moved to Alaska. I have to say that I was married to a great guy at the time, still a great guy. But in all of it, what happens is that I saw the whole country, every state in the United States. And that's how I ended up in Alaska, is I had to color that off. And so we had to go up to Alaska to actually yellow magic marker it in on the actual map. But I have to say that I became worldly at age 21 when I saw other places and appreciated them on their level. Think of me and you and a dog named Boo. Well, it was me and my husband and a Volkswagen Bug that we just
That's classic.
Yes, that's it. And so that was another part of it, is to see and hear and really listen to people in their voices all over the world. That was forever given to me then. But then there was the moment when I was standing in front of an audience in a very freezing cold Anchorage, Alaska. And it was like a Fellini movie. People were screaming and yelling and yay. And I had just helped run the first Democratic mayoral race. And he won. Now, nobody had ever said beforehand that we had never had a Democrat as mayor. Right. No one told me that until I actually started doing the research.
Right.
But at that moment, when that whole crowd was there looking at the stage I was on, I looked out and just said to myself, maybe one person can change the world.
Right.
And it's that moment that was that critical juncture, because before that, I had been fighting ever becoming a full-time political consultant or campaign manager, because there was only one, I would say, career path that people hated more than journalism, and it was political and political science. But of course, I would have to go. I would have to be there and actually establish myself early on, thanks to the good people over at the National Democratic Institute that had me going to 48 different countries. Those folks, as well as the State Department, have had me all over the world. It's when I was in the South Pacific, and it was really beautiful. And I thought, oh my gosh, people aren't going to believe I'm here working. And then I got to see what the real people lived like over there. And that it was the worst place in the world in regards to women actually being in any authoritative position, even in the media. It was really tough. So I have to say, those were two important ones to me. There was the time that a woman named Jolene Unseld here in, I would say she was in Southwest Washington. She had called me in Alaska and said, Cathy, I want you to come down and run my campaign for Congress. And I said, why would you want me to come down there and run your race? And she said, well, because I need this campaign to have a lot of that just populism and spirit. I need a top cheerleader. I need somebody who can understand what the truth of these issues really is. And I said, well, why would I do that? Well, two things happened then. One was I realized my friends were starting to run against my friends in Alaska, a tough place to be. And second of all, when she said, Cathy, how many women do you think are in the United States Congress? I said, I don't know, 40, 50? She said, there are 9. I said, I'll be right down. That's what it was. So those are the moments in my life that I really remember as having been most profound, as far as just my clicking and deciding, okay, my life is going to be different from now on, and this will be part of it.
I really want to kind of shine a light on a theme that's in your story that I find incredible. And that is, number one, you talk about having goals, like checking off the map, and you didn't know where that was going to lead you. You didn't know that it was going to be an important part of what you did, but you had goals that you were just little challenges for yourself that I really feel like take you down a path that you don't have to have the clear vision. You don't have to have the long view. You just have to kind of make your way through the fog, and all of a sudden things open up and you realize you're doing something that you're passionate about. And then the other piece that I love about that is your values are all over that. I mean, when she's telling you how many women are there and you're like, okay, I get this. this is what I value, this authenticity, this representation. I think that people have to know who they are to be able to direct their path in their career. And so I love both of those things about your story there.
Yeah,
Incredible.
yeah.
It's really remarkable.
Thank you.
You mentioned your tribe as being your supporters, your network of women friends. Is there anyone else, anyone in particular who from either an early age or somewhere along your career who just created that right dynamic, especially in those dark moments where you're trying to make a decision about life? Is there anyone who stands out in your mind as having done something unique for you?
Well, I would say two. My sister, who decided to come and help me build a business when I had no interest in business at all. I was creative. I got people elected. I did the door-to-doors and wrote the campaign plans. But my sister, Linda Kelly, is the one who said, well, we ain't going to have anything if you don't start paying the bills, and we have to pay those bills. And so she organized my entire, to this day, that woman still handles all of my, today she's going over to pick up my tax returns.
Yeah, Gary.
Yay.
She's the money bag.
Can I have her phone number?
Yeah.
I need a Linda Kelly in my life.
And when I had I remember I was getting out of the hospital for, I believe it was a gallbladder operation. And my vice president at the time was a guy named Tom Van Bronckhorst. And what he did was he told me, while I was sitting there in pain, he said, well, I think we might consider closing the business because we just aren't pulling in the money. And I said, Tommy, isn't this kind of a bad time to do this? And he said, I think it's always time to tell you that you need to stop and think about making these decisions. And he and my sister were very, very good at telling me the truth and just saying you can't live this positivity to the nth degree. You can't do it. You've got to pay the bills. You've got to do some very basic things you may not want to do. And at the time I was writing a book. And so I really wanted to finish this book. And what happened is that these people always cut through the crap and just sort of say, this is what you need. You need a reality check here because you're just living the life you want to lead as opposed to those of us who are responsible for all those things you want to do. And so they were both very good truth makers. But one of the real truism that really always matters, at every period of my life, I have had a great girlfriend who has been a soulmate, whether it was my sister, my buddies in Alaska, particularly. I have here in Washington State, there was a woman who was the best journalist at the biggest paper. And she used to have this column of what's really going on, like the buzz. And what happened is her name is Jean Godin, and she went on to become one of my clients. She ran for office. It was one of those moments on the last day before the final sign-up was done. We did a poll that quickly. We pulled everything together and came back. But this is a woman who's always taught me, you have something no one can take away from you. And that's your writing. My writing was, she and I have identified and we even play Scrabble is what we end up arguing the most over. Forget politics. We argue over Scrabble. But she has been a real friend to never let go of this thing called writing. And when you can't say something to someone, you can write it down and you can make sure it reflects what you want. Unfortunately, with email, you should be thinking about it more before you push the send button. But the fact is, writing has always been sort of at the heart of that which is most, I think, precious to me.
And that's coupled with and fueled by your passion and your values. That's, you can see it just in your energy. You just glow with energy and excitement. And that really makes your writing probably even more powerful.
Yeah. I'd like to think so, but I have to say, I'm still telling my students that they ask, well, what books do we have to read? And I said, here is the list of the 9 best grammar books ever written. Get yourself one. I don't care which one. Just show it to me on the screen that you got it, because it's. I'm surprised at the number of people who can tell you how many programs they can operate online. but how very few can write.
Oh,
And I'm
yeah.
always sort of saying, you guys,
It
come on
breaks my
now.
heart. Yep.
Yeah.
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 I'm part of that grammar police. My
Yes,
English
she is.
teacher from ninth grade, Miss Dorette Boylan, she was one of those grammar police, but I love it now because I'm very careful, and that's how you meet people in the world, is through your voice, right? So
Well,
in writing.
my good friend Jean Godden, when she was on the city council, Seattle City Council, she would make her colleagues furious because she would be constantly correcting them. If they were not grammatically correct, they
Yep.
would be irritated. The rest of us would be irritated if she didn't. So it was real. It's really been worth it. So I have had this stream of great friends, and so there are so many that I would just find someone who was filled with, well, actually, energy and enthusiasm for life, and I would. No matter where I lived, I would find these people. I used to say, we're all from the same amoeba pack. Way back when, if we separated out in the oceans and so on, what happens is that
Cathy, you've got the one-liners.
Yeah.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
no,
From
but
the same amoeba pack. I'm going to remember that one.
and when you meet them. Amelia was another one. When I met her, I said, well, this is my people. She's from the same amoeba pile I am. That's it. And it's always good because you actually kind of get to know them faster because of it.
Yeah, the
so
connection.
I'm charmed by it. I'm charmed by the people who are really outstanding. Actually, happened when Josh and I were talking. I couldn't believe all of the things we had in common. Like,
it was delightful.
You would never believe. I mean, I have told people that, the part you wouldn't believe is I have really, I picked up being a jeweler. I make beads all over no matter where I am in the world.
Okay.
I'll take the last day of my training and I'll go have the women whom I've been training and say, take me to the places where the special things are that you get. And I've been through the best markets, in the best places with my best buddies, and I come home and make beads out of them.
And they're beautiful. I've seen them. Yeah.
They're beautiful. I sell them, and when I sell them, the money goes to help go to a place that can't afford an actual training.
Dipping into your creativity to change the world. I love that.
Yeah. Cathy, I wanted to break in real quick and just ask, and this is a slight, and there's a bit of a segue here. You've had so many experiences and faced so many challenges, and sounds a little bit like you enjoy a good challenge. This is a two-part question. One is, have you faced challenges specifically because you're a woman in influence and increasing influence? And or what would you say from that are the challenges that many women face? What's your perspective on that?
Well, I think that one of the hardest things to talk about is the jealousy we sometimes get for women that are surrounding us. It's sort of like, and we have found this to be quite true from a political perspective too, is that why for the longest time women have not supported women running for office. It's like that whole, I would say what's she got that I haven't got? And that whole idea of comparing yourself to someone else and being very envious, whether it be on your smarts, your education, your money, who you married, the kids, how brilliant, the weight, how big, how small. It's that we have always sort of looked at other things besides just the truth of the values that are going to actually underscore why we would vote for someone. And it's been a long tag. And I find myself doing it. I have to say, I was with a coworker. We were in Louisiana training. And here's this young, beautiful, absolutely spirited, 26-year-old, I think at the time. And she's just fabulous. And I had just done my opening spiel for a week-long training of women there. And what happened is at the end of it, I sort of went up to the back and and everybody was clapping. They were happy. And then I'm listening to this child, this 26-year-old, I have introduced. I had actually mentored this woman, really loved her as she was a soulmate from the very beginning. She understood this leadership thing. And so she gets up there and the crowd loves her. The crowd absolutely thinks she's terrific. And they're just, I was staring at her from across the room going, I'm going to kill you. I can't believe you did this. And it was one of those aha moments again, where you realize I am not immune to looking at another who has more, or in this case, she's a perfect size 8, that it was, she was absolutely the case I try to use against others. And when you see another woman and you start to feel that kind of, well, that's not such a big deal, and all of that, the fact is that is society history with women, and that is women holding women to higher standards. And frankly, I credit the Me Too movement with breaking that faster than anything I could ever do running around to all the countries of the world. Me Too has been that actual twist in women's heads that says, you know, I think I need to start voting for women all the time, because I got to say, I can't believe all the women that have actually suffered these kinds of things and haven't done anything about it, just like me. And that became, for 2 years, women in so many countries turned out to vote. And after they won, even in our own Congress, the women of color that won, the lesbians who won, I have to say, all of this happened in a way that woke other women up to say, she runs, I'm going for it. I'm going to go for that. And it really has lingered now for 5 years. It really has been an institution that sought to wake women up, that they were holding their women colleagues, they were holding them back. And now I'm talking about countries like Cuba going from 26% women to 53% women.
Wow.
I'm talking about Jordan going from 11 to 20%. I'm talking about places like South Africa, which is another one in the 20s, now in the 40s, high 40s. Rwanda, 63% women in parliament. That's what's happened. When women hear other women, this world is getting so small, thanks to technology, as well as the computers that are actually allowing us to speak now around the world. The fact is, when we see how others have done it and won, when we see other women with other options close to us, that's when we get to the point of deciding to work and get something done. So I have to say that women are follow-throughs. I can talk to men and women, and they both say, well, one of the good reasons to hire a woman is that she's a whole lot more dependable than some of these guys we hire. So these things become endemic. And I have to say, what's been revolutionary for me is to realize that a guy shouldn't be elected because he's not a woman. The truth is, I do support men. And there are so many men that have the characteristics I look for in women leaders, that they listen, that they happen to be people who ask the right questions, and they won't get talked down. They're, the folks that really have empathy, they're compassionate, those who actually see others and want to include them, the inclusivity. When men come to me with these assets, I'll just sort of say, well, I think you got what it takes. This is a good thing. I really believe that it's the style and the actual understanding, that genuine and authenticity you talk about. Those are the things that people can see. The job is now just to make sure that we don't be looking exclusively at women when there are men who are actually soulmates in the crusade to make things better. So I have to say that the young women today too are growing up a whole lot more inclusive, particularly when looking at other women and being very clear that that's what they need to be able to accomplish what their heart tells them.
Right. It's that collective voice.
Yeah.
What
Kathy,
used to be the
have
Means Girls Club is no longer the Means Girl Club. It's actually the collective voice of rising, right? Yeah.
Yes. And Melinda Gates just finished her book. I just finished her book, The Lift, and it is incredible. I have to say, it's a bright light. She's actually cataloged some of the women all over the world now who have taken that lift, and you can see it. You can see good and qualified women in every capacity.
Cathy, you're such an overcomer. You're so passionate. Have you ever doubted yourself?
All the time. I still look at myself in the mirror and see a fat woman, you know?
Mm.
And if another woman says that to me, I go, slap them. It's like, if you ever say that, that's the most terrible thing you could say. But I have to say, I've always been very self-conscious, you know? And there have been times when I've had to be told, look, put that glass of wine down. You cut it out for a while. These things are true. There are many things in terms of just getting myself so that I don't let that exuberance that truly was born in me, that I don't let it become something, that I don't see the flaws of what I am and want to do, which is why I have such great friends who will tell me. I still remember one who sat on my counter and said, you know, every day I wake up and I wonder, I'm gonna read in the paper tomorrow that you died, because your life, you're running around so much, you are, you know, speeding all over the world, you know, you're eating too much, you're drinking too much. You know what? You need to slow down. And I have had friends in every phase of my life tell me to do that.
Wow. Those are good friends.
They are. Right. In fact, now when we're doing image training, we say, look, if somebody gives you advice and it sounds to you like they're criticizing you, thank them.
Right. I totally agree. That whole self-awareness that you get to choose what advice you're going to consider and think about. Just thank them for the gift and the bravery of telling you, and then you get to decide what you do with it, right?
So true.
So we shouldn't be afraid of that, and we should welcome it. I agree with you.
It's always good. It's always good.
I love your self-reflection, like when you're talking about your 26-year-old colleague and seeing what she can do, that awareness, and then it takes a lot of self-compassion, because then you have to say to yourself, hey, what am I doing here, without beating yourself up, right? Like that's the only way you get to change it, as opposed to shoving it down. So I agree with you. That feedback is really powerful, and that self-reflection. I'm curious to hear how your approach to conflict, obstacles, resistance over the years, over your career, as you've started to move through. I think there's a maturity that you gain in navigating those things. Can you share with our listeners how that's evolved for you?
Sure. One way is choose your battles. Do not take every battle on. Some are best shared with a friend, some not even. Some of the things you don't have to take on every cause. Every cause is not your own. And I also think that when it comes to people who have gotten into trouble, got themselves actually to a point where they've either lied or they've been caught doing something they shouldn't, the fact is, almost all of them at that point will end up doing something stupid. And mine is like, shut up, just shut up. When something is happening, don't babble on. You're only making it worse. Most people, they're not considering what the problem was or what you did that was wrong. What they're doing is they're actually judging you and how you react to it. And the reaction often is far worse than the initial actual fault. So that is part of it. But in other times, I think that what I've done is listen to those voices that compete with the ones in my head. That says positive, keep going, we got this. And it says you need to get home and finish this project so we can get paid. That would be good. So I do listen. And when my friends say, you know, that's not right, we shouldn't be doing this, I listen. I do. And I'm far more likely to really hear. And which is the great thing in teaching a class with someone who, from an ideology perspective, is quite opposite mine. And from that, to become good friends with someone like that, because I learn so much. In fact, I always say these classes are such that I can't believe it, that I go out with my mind just absolutely just rolling with all the things that I need to look at differently, which is part of the problem I think we have in the world today, is that people aren't listening. People are talking
to each other. Yeah.
Right.
But Cathy, this hour is just flying by, as they always do with our
We're
shows.
only 5 minutes into it, aren't we? Oh, yeah.
That's what it feels like. We could do this for 3 hours,
Yeah.
but I want to be respectful of everyone's time around the world who's watching this. Janine, if you want to ask resources question, and then I've got a final question for you. And then we want to watch the video real quick at the end too.
There's a couple things that I like to ask everybody just for my own knowledge, and I think people are interested. Number one, what are you reading right now? And number two, do you have something self-care wise that you do that kind of keeps you resilient, gets you back on track, and helps you flourish?
I do. I would say I have quality time with my good weight counselor who's been with me for 100 pounds off. This woman has stayed with
Wow,
me.
congratulations.
It's been a long time. I got to tell you, it's been a long time.
Mhm.
But Sam Christensen is a friend, and she is the woman who slows me down when I need it. And when I'm when I get 1, 2, or 3 pounds more than where I wanted, boom, she's absolutely there. And the fact is that she keeps me on track. I have to say that the recent book, you're going to love this, was How to Wash the Dishes. It's a marvelous little short read, something we think of that we've always done. And frankly, it was one of the most fun little books in the world.
We have to put that in the show notes. It sounds fabulous.
Yeah. And then the other one is The Overstory.
Oh, yes.
Just
yes. Gut-wrenching too, though.
But also to think of trees as living beings that have a sense of being able to, survive centuries, why we survive
millennia. Yeah.
So and all of that, those have been two things. I have to say, I love my my beading. I love it. It really puts me to be in Seattle with it snowing, which it doesn't do very often.
Right.
Beating my little heart out. I just love it. Listening to some great jazz on KNKX. I love it.
Yay.
It's my world.
We have more to talk about.
Yeah. That whole mindfulness, though, of just being present in the moment, even if it's just to try to string those beads or to do something with them that's creative and wonderful, that mindfulness is really relaxing, isn't it? I do that with knitting.
Well,
so I get it.
I have to say, it's really worth it. And the COVID has brought out such good things in me. It really has. I have my first shot, thank God. But I must say that it has taught me how slowing down isn't the sin I thought it was. That staying home as opposed to 3 engagements a night, I said to myself, there's something to this slowing down. I've become a great cook again, and my house has become a home where it was always a place I stored my clothes. It has become a place I want to be. And so it's had a really good effect on me, I think. And this viral, I'm finally learning computers besides the book. I'm finally deciding this.
You do great.
Is not going to be a fad. It's going to be with us for a while.
Joshua's helped me with that whole techie business. That's for sure. He's been very patient with me. That's for sure. Nick too.
I love it.
Yeah, Nick's great.
Go
ahead, Cathy. Sorry, please.
Well, it's just a hard thing. It's a hard thing to actually look at the quiet that might make you feel better. I think I have been running from that for a long time. I retired late, and I'm not even retired yet. I'm in school. I have clients. I'm helping people run for office. I'm training people in Cameroon. Fact is, it's okay to be quiet.
Wow.
So we want to make sure to watch this fantastic video that you've queued up for us, and
it's exciting.
Everyone, Nick is our promotions and marketing team member. He's behind the scenes right now, making sure that this is running well. And so he's going to cue that up here in just a couple of minutes. But we do have a solid 10 minutes here where I'd love to hear what you are most hopeful about with regard to women in influence and leadership in the world today.
I think that the next step has to be one of conquering the violence against women in politics or in visible places. A lot of it now is online, and in this last election cycle, we had hundreds of women that reported horrible things. And these women who were running or wanted to run, the fact is we've had just so many people with stories here in the United States, but it's not just here. We have our friends in New Zealand, Australia. I got friends all over the Middle East one woman who had her husband run against her. It's because he was just so absolutely angry that she was running. And so from that, she won, by the way. And she got divorced and she got custody of the kids. It was a threefer.
Wow.
And all of it, it was just a good thing of just seeing how women are communicating so that we don't all have to make this terribly violent mistake of waiting for years before we stop people who have either done things like argued against them. In France, one guy walked up and actually just put his hands on another colleague's breasts. I mean, we've had, happily he's now thrown out, but the fact is, it's just everywhere.
Okay.
And it's something we just have to learn the language to stop.
Yeah.
And the other part we have learned is that, hey, those guys can be great friends. And let us not be open to women embracing man embracing women as an opportunity to learn from all of us. It's going to take all of us to undo, redo, or do what it's going to take to be able to clean up this world. It's just not going to be one sex, one country, one individual way of doing it. Everyone's going to have to be part of the solution. And women are a good place. Whenever I see a board of directors or when I go to buy something, I will say, hey, so how many women on your board of directors? The fascinating part is how many who actually now know how many.
Wow.
And
Awareness, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's
Be aware of it to be able to change it.
Yeah.
and that's where you guys come in, because lady and gent, let me just tell you that talking amongst cultures, the one thing I have found is how little difference there is in the plight of women. It doesn't matter. I remember standing with a friend and we were in Africa, as a matter of fact. And what happened is this woman said, what do you do when, as an elected woman, you come home and your husband's not speaking to you because you stayed out to finish this meeting, which was a budget meeting? And she says, I don't know. Tell me when you find out, because it's a problem over here when she comes home. All of these things have to show all of us who have had nibbles of success that people like you are talking about them, so that we aren't reinventing the wheel in 192 countries. It's important. Right now, it's going to be cleaning up the violence in politics. I think the next part is going to also be seeing how we can all get along. Women are naturally, collegially oriented when it comes to, we tend to want to make people happy at the same time we're dealing with tough problems. It still is thought to be a man's trait to be able to make a decision. It's a woman's to take too much time to make that decision.
Right.
At our own Brain Institute here, they've shown that women don't want any decision. They want the best. And guys just want to be able to make a decision.
Yeah,
so they can move on.
reactive.
Yeah.
Reactive,
Yeah.
and we'll constantly tweak it as opposed to let's come up with the best decision first. Yeah.
Cathy, we want to make sure that we roll this video. So Nick, if you'll cue that up, and then we'll chit chat. We'll talk a little bit about that video before we end. This has been phenomenal.
Yes,
I've learned a
thank
ton.
you. And I
We
think
love
the
you.
video is just the icing on the cake for everything that you've mentioned today.
I
So-
call it
Wow, wow, wow.
Tears. That's
Yeah. And people are already asking how they're going to be able to see the video again. So I would like to be able to credit whoever made it. And so since we don't know that, maybe they'll write in and tell us and we can put it in the show notes.
That would be great.
Yeah, we'll put that in the show
Link
notes.
to it because I think it's really, really powerful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
It says it all
Very moving. Yeah.
with no words at all. It
Yeah.
says it all.
It's
It's
brilliant.
amazing.
Cathy, we love you. You're phenomenal. Thank you for taking the time on your birthday.
Yes,
happy
on your
birthday.
birthday. Happy birthday.
This
What
is
are you
a
going to do? Are you going to celebrate?
I'm probably going to record this and watch it 5 or 6 times so I can remember what I said. But I have to say that I'm just happy. This truly is, of all the ways I've ever spent my birthday, exactly how I would like to be.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Thank you. That's
Kathy,
unbelievable.
from this interview, just this little bit that I know you're leaving a legacy that's so powerful. I was a women's studies major back in the early 80s. And when I see how much things have moved for women, we still have a ways to go, but you are leaving a legacy. And I thank you very much, really wholeheartedly.
We're grateful.
Incredible.
Thank you.
And to our listeners and Cathy as well, this is recorded. And so we will put this up on YouTube. You can view it whenever you want. If you've checked in a little late and want to catch the earlier parts, or it'll be up. And then of course we'll take the audio and put that on iTunes and SoundCloud and Pandora, and just like all of our audio only podcasts that have been over the past year. So with that said, Cathy, this has been wonderful. We're going to let you go, and happy birthday. I hope it's a wonderful day for you.
Kathy, I have a favor to ask.
Okay. Yeah.
We watch our downloads and we don't know anyone in North or South Dakota, Wyoming.
That's right.
West Virginia and Mississippi. Do you? Because nobody's listening in those states. And I'm like, what?
Yeah,
we are in over 50 countries and we're not in every state. So
right. Yeah.
You could be the person to help us.
Send me the states. I have to tell you, you bet. And actually, in the Dakotas, we got great women.
Oh,
great women.
Great.
Yep.
They just don't know about us yet.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
You got it.
Thank
Namaste.
Loved it.
Bye-bye.
We'll talk to you
Happy
soon.
birthday.
Oh my
Wow,
goodness,
wasn't it great?
Janine.
What? Woo!
She kicks ass. That
Yes,
was phenomenal.
She sure does.
Oh my goodness.
So-
Listeners, we've got a couple things we just wanted to bring up before we let you go. And we're going to do our very best to do this in about 3 minutes so we can be respectful of your time. We know that all of you have a ton going on. We feel such a privilege that you've tuned in, and hope this has been as valuable to you as it has been to us. So
Thank
Janine,
you so
go
much.
for it.
Thank you. This is our first one. We're delighted. We would love your feedback, and it would be a gift to us.
Yeah.
I also want to let you know that Stephanie Stuckey is going to bring back that pecan log all across the nation. And so she has a very interesting story. And I think that our listeners next week are going to be enthralled with what she has to say. She's made some career changes and some life decisions that are just really powerful. And I know that people are going to enjoy hearing her.
She's super engaging. Yeah.
The other thing is, we want people to rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify and blueberry.net. We really would appreciate your support and a review. That's how people find us. And share with your network.
Share with your network when we announce every new live stream that's coming out. And also we'll be doing the audio most of the time on Thursdays. So it'll be 2 releases per week. But when we share that, we primarily share it on LinkedIn. If you see that post and if you're attending the event, please share that with your networks. It's simply multiplication and gets the word out there much faster, and request that your network connections would share it again. So,
and we hit the 1 year mark. So we want to thank everybody who's been so steadfast for us and encouraging. And it is really our mission to create a platform where you get to hear people's voices and stories and their journey. And your support over the last year has been incredible. So thank you so much. And we'll see you next week with Stephanie.
Yay, it's great.
Fun. Thanks.
Talk to you soon.
Happy to celebrate. Bye-bye.